So if you're watching this, then that means the Celtics lost Game 6. I was not watching the game at home, so I'm not at my computer, which means I had to do this commentary before the game. Miami is going to the NBA Finals. Congratulations to them. Unfortunately, I'm not able to actually provide analysis on Game 6, so whether it was the Celtics having more trouble with Miami's zone, Miami going back to man, and maybe the Celtics tried to beat Bam in one-on-ones too much, maybe the Celtics just had a horrifically bad shooting game where they missed a bunch of open threes, perhaps Jimmy locked up Tatum or Jalen or something. On the other end, maybe Duncan Robinson or Tyler Hero or whoever just hit a million threes, or the Celtics could not stop the Dragic-Bam pick and roll, or Jimmy was just beating guys in one-on-ones. I don't know what happened, because again, as I record this commentary, the game has not happened yet. But I can talk about what's happened in the series up to this point, and I mean, if the Celtics end up losing Game 6, then I'll just imagine that it'll be for similar reasons. I mean, I think what we saw throughout this series, number one, while I love Brad Stevens, and I am 100% all in on him being the coach of the Celtics for as long as possible, you could say that Spoelstra has been better than Stevens through parts of this series. I don't think the difference between them was massive, but it did take the Celtics a little while to really figure out the zone. They also did not go to Marcus Smart on Dragic fast enough, if you ask me. I also think the Dragic-Bam pick and roll, at least in Game 5, they were able to kind of deal with it, or if anything, Miami just didn't run it enough. But throughout the series overall, I think they were not able to pose as much of a disruption to those two just running some pretty basic sets together. I think the Celtics' primary ball handlers, mainly Tatum and Jalen, while they have improved as playmakers, I think there's another level they have to get to. I also think Miami took advantage of the Celtics not having a big man who's a real threat on offense. I like Daniel Tice, but he's just not a guy that's going to command a whole lot of attention from the defense. We saw in minutes, sporadically, how tough the Celtics can be to stop when they've got a guy like Enes Kanter who can attack switches. So there's that. Of course, a healthy Gordon Hayward playing from Game 1 would have made a difference. And again, I mean, it's impossible for me to say what happened in Game 6. So if Miami won in a blowout, then perhaps this doesn't apply as much. But I would imagine that Celtics fans would look at this as everything is falling down. Oh my God, the world is over. I mean, you lost in 6 games to a very good team. And even then, I mean, Game 1 went to overtime, and Tyler Hero had the 37-point game where he was hitting crazy shots. I mean, I don't think this was an overwhelming victory for Miami. Unless, again, Game 6 was a blowout, I do not know. And I think you think about the future of the Celtics, the future of the Heat. I mean, for the sake of Miami, there's no reason as to why they shouldn't be better next season. You think about Bam and Tyler Hero getting better. Maybe Duncan Robinson will add some extra layer to what he does while still shooting a million threes a game. And there is potential for them to do something in the offseason. I mean, Miami's made it pretty obvious that they want to have cap space for after next season. But they do have cap space for this offseason. And we'll just have to see if they want to do something in free agency. I mean, Dragic is the big decision. I think they should hold on to him. I think teams, specifically the Knicks, will be very interested in Dragic. I think they need to make a decision on Crowder. We'll see there. The Iguodala contract, I mean, maybe Iguodala looked great in Game 6. I don't know. But up to this point, the $15 million next season for Iguodala, it doesn't look amazing, but at least it's a team option for the 2022 season, so it doesn't kill them. But the point that I'm making is we better get used to seeing Miami this deep in the playoffs, because they're probably going to be better next season. And then they've got the big opportunity to sign somebody after next year, so just watch out pretty much. I mean, how do we know that next season Bam isn't going to be shooting threes? Or, I mean, you know, this is only Bam's 3rd year, and he already looks so polished as a big man, but his shooting could get better, his ball handling could improve even more. He's already the second best playmaking big in the league behind Jokic, I would say. I mean, Horford has dropped off. Blake, he just played like 20 games, so I can't really put him there. So I feel like it's Bam number 2 behind Jokic. And then I mentioned him before, Tyler Hero. I remember when I did the redraft, I'm pretty sure I had Hero 3rd after Zion and Ja Morant. And sure, he didn't dominate the Celtics throughout the series, but I think we saw a glimpse of what Hero can be with that 37-point game. I say he didn't dominate them throughout the series. Again, I'm doing this before Game 6 has happened, so maybe he had an amazing Game 6. But yeah, like I said earlier, get used to seeing Miami go this deep. And I remember doing a video about how Miami just kind of flipped everything, because they kind of screwed themselves by committing to a bunch of bad contracts for a lot of years. James Johnson and Tyler Johnson, and I don't remember all of them, but there were quite a few. And through drafting Hero and Bam and Duncan Robinson as a restricted, or as a undrafted free agent. I don't know why I was thinking restricted free agent. Kendrick Nunn, who, was he a draft pick, or was Kendrick Nunn a G League guy, whatever that was? And then the sign and trade for Jimmy, just being a really smart front office. And now they go on to face the Lakers, and we'll do the whole video about it. And you already know I'm going to pick the Lakers to win the series, but I'm sure Miami could think of some things to at least make the Lakers have to go to their plan B. I don't think it's going to be an easy series. I think in some ways this Miami team has a bit of like 2004 Pistons energy. Jimmy's probably... Well, is Jimmy better than Chauncey or Rashid or whoever you would consider to be the best player on that Pistons team? Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. But I feel like because he doesn't dominate the ball and he doesn't dominate shots, this team does have a bit of that, which is nice, but the 2 best players are on the Lakers, so that usually suggests who's going to win the series, especially when one of those guys is LeBron. I guess we could talk about the Celtics now. What the series taught us is while Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, and we'll just start with Tatum. While Tatum has definitely improved on his playmaking, I think there's another level he's got to get to if he's going to be the primary guy for the Celtics, right? I'm not saying he can't be very good in the regular season and all that if he just stays with where he's at, but I'm saying more so in the playoffs against a really good team. I just think even if the assist numbers looked good for him, there were definitely times in the series where he was dribbling into the Miami zone defense and getting a little overwhelmed, and probably going to have to improve his ball handling a little bit more, because there are times in which it looks a little shaky. Like, I think he could tighten up the handle a little bit more, and I think he can do it. The improvement that he made between the break of the regular season and then the bubble as a passer was pretty wild. In the playoffs, Tatum averaged 4.5 assists a game, which is up from his 3 per game in the regular season. Granted, he also played 40 minutes a game in the playoffs, so that's going to come with it, but you could just tell it was a little better. I think we would all agree there. Some of the passes he would be making where he'd be driving and then there'd be a guy in the corner and he kind of hits him with a sort of no-look pass, or there's somebody kind of open around the basket and he catches him real quick. Plays that used to be an awkward floater or something from Tatum are now sometimes plays that end up being an open shot for somebody else. So that's good. But I still think there's another level that he can get to, and again, I think he will. I think Tatum has improved. He's improved at everything. He's improved his shot selection. He's improved his free throw attempts. Granted, he still was like a little under 5 per game this year, so if you wanted to be cynical, you could be like, well, he wasn't shooting like 7 or 8 free throws a game this year, but I think the Celtics have finally hammered it home for Tatum that if he just decides that he's going to go to the rim with his size and his gracefulness and all that, teams can't do too much against him. Now, maybe he looked really bad in Game 6, I don't know, which makes everything I'm saying look a little worse. But I think it's safe to say that Tatum, he's on a trajectory to being one of the best players in the NBA. Especially when you talk about the rebounding and the defense. And look, is it insane to suggest that next season Jason Tatum could average 26 points, 7 rebounds, 4.5 assists, be an all-defense candidate, and be very efficient from the floor. I don't think it's ridiculous to believe he can do that. As for Jalen, everything I just said about the playmaking for Tatum applies to Jalen as well. The difference is I think Jalen has to make a little bit more of a jump. Do I think he can get to being a 5 or 6 assist a game type of dude? I don't know. I mean, look, he already made a big improvement with his ball handling between year 4 and year 3. I mean, he jumped up 7 points a game. He was potentially the Celtics' best player against Miami. He was dropping like 20-something points every game. But Jalen, he might just always be more of a finisher than a real creator. Not saying he can never ISO or he can never hit a contested shot. I mean, we've seen him do it. But it's more so he's not going to act as the pseudo point guard at times the way that I think Tatum can. And that's fine because Jalen's still really good. And, for all that talk about, did the Celtics pay Jaylen Brown too much money? No, they didn't. They got that one totally right. In fact, I think they actually saved money because if they did not extend Jalen and then he made this jump, I think they would have had to max him. So that was some good foresight on their part to give him that extension a year early. Now, as for Tatum, that's not going to happen. Jason Tatum is getting a max contract the second the Celtics are allowed to offer him an extension. And then as far as the rest of the team is concerned, I mean, you hope that Gordon Hayward is healthy in the playoffs. If he can just please stop having freak injuries that have nothing to do with each other. And yeah, I mean, this team as it looks right now is pretty much going to be this for a while. I mean, they're pretty locked into salaries, and there is a bit of a question of can you actually keep everybody here long term? I mean, Tatum and Jalen definitely. But I think the real question is Hayward. Because, he's making $34 million this upcoming season, and we'll just see what his extension looks like if the Celtics keep him. Because if they hold on to him, that's basically them saying, this is our team, and that's that. Which, it's a team that I think is really, really good, especially when you take into account Tatum and Jalen getting better. But if they ever saw some sort of an opportunity to go in a different direction, it would come from either trading Hayward or letting him walk. Now, I've seen various Hayward trade ideas on the internet. Of course, there were the Hayward for Drummond ideas, which I thought were ridiculous, and I think for what we saw Drummond move for, NBA front offices also thought Drummond having an estimated value of Gordon Hayward was also ridiculous. I've seen Hayward for Vucevic suggested in my mentions with the idea of the Celtics might need more offense from their bigs. Because Daniel Tice is good, but, he's not threatening defenses like that. I think Hayward is better than Vucevic. I would not do that. I've seen Miles Turner suggested. I think Hayward's better than Miles Turner, so I wouldn't do that either. So we'd have to see. The Celtics also have 3 first-round picks this season. We'll see what they do if they end up using all of those picks. Danny has not traded a first in a while. It might be time to, because they've got a lot of first-round picks who are kind of competing for minutes right now, and if you use all 3, then you're going to have 3 more dudes competing for minutes, and at a certain point, you just have these prospects who are not playing, so we'll see what they want to do there. But yeah, man, if it feels like I'm at least kind of optimistic, even after losing to Miami, one, it's because I'm, again, recording this before it's actually happened, so these are not my raw emotions from a loss. But the second thing is, I don't know, feel pretty good. I've never had a 22, 23-year-old star to cheer for, and I've got 2 of them, so you know what, I'm kind of optimistic. So that'll do it for me. Like and subscribe if you want to, and that's that.